right. Now, the HSE has shut down its entire IT system after a major cyber attack. The COVID vaccination program isn't affected, but the Rotunda Hospital has cancelled most appointments for today. The HSE confirmed there's been a significant ransomware attack on its IT systems. It apologised for the inconvenience caused to patients and the public. The Rotunda, as I mentioned, it's urging people actually to contact the Rotunda, though that doesn't really apply to us up here, to contact the hospital before attending unless it's an emergency. We'll see if there's any local reaction to that, by the way. But Professor Kevin Curran is a professor of cyber security at Ulster University. Good morning to you, Professor. Thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome, Greg. Good morning.
Right, so what is a ransomware attack? I think I've heard this on individuals, but it seems unusual to me anyway that it would be in such a large organisation as the HSE.
Yes, but they actually are not usually targeted. In other words, what a ransomware attack is where all the files on your computer are encrypted and you cannot do anything with them. It basically breaks your system. It breaks all the computers in your network. It means you can't do any work and you lost everything. And the reason it's become a modern nightmare is because of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, which allow you to actually make money, to get money, and the money is sent to you through, whatever way, through your wallet, and you can remain anonymous. In other words, it's become the perfect ransomware, whatever else you want to do to people. You want to bring on a website or you want to encrypt their files, and you can be anywhere in the world, and that is the problem.
Now, I mean, do you think whoever is behind this, and I think the HSE has confirmed that it's human driven, would actually think that such an arm of the state would be inclined to pay a ransom?
No, because what you have is, if I go to the dark side, I would join the ransomware gang tomorrow morning if I wanted to be cruel and wanted to make money quickly and had no scruples, whatever else, because there's money to be made. But what you have is, you generally sign up for services because there's people who control the ransomware at the top, and they take a cut of whatever you want to do. So therefore, I could join a website tomorrow and I could pay my 30% and I could start encrypting people's files and trying to get money for myself in Bitcoin, and I can mix that money myself. But the fact is, they're not particularly targeted. What happens is your computer literally sends out hundreds of thousands of emails per second to people, and you're hoping a fraction of those would click on those emails, and then you will get your ransomware implanted. In other words, these hackers did not know the HSE from Highland Radio.
I get you. Right. So they're just throwing it, casting a wide net and hoping to nab themselves a tuner or something. So in terms of this type of attack, we don't know the extent of it, or do we? I mean, would they have now taken files off? Will this affect the system going forward? I think some of these can also, part of it is to get into backup files as well.
Exactly. We've seen a trend in the last 12 months. What the hackers do now is, if people do not pay immediately, what they do is, in every single case almost, what they do is they say, look, if you don't pay us, we will leak this information. So what they do is they bait the people whose files are encrypted, and they kind of more or less force them into paying a ransomware, because they say, I will leak this information. So that's what is probably most likely, that they will leak a few private records of people and then hope for the payout. Because you've seen, look at this week in America, the Colonial Pipeline, which controls the fuel for 50% of America, and we're talking about planes having to refuel because they haven't enough fuel. It goes from Houston, Texas to New York or New Jersey. Okay, it controls 50% of the gas, the fuel in America, and there's been shortages. You might have seen on the news, you might have seen people fighting on the courtyards of fuel stations and everything else, because everything is digital now. It controls all the thermostats, the sensors, the valves, and everything else. And of course, people are logging in for the last year remotely, and of course, it's very hard to protect every system. But what we have is just a modern nightmare, because there is no paper backup. Everything is being controlled by computers right now. Everything. And of course, ransomware is the biggest problem we're seeing in the world at the moment, in technology and hacking and everything else.
All right, Professor Kevin Curran, thank you very much indeed. He's a Professor of Cybersecurity at Ulster University Hospital. So, of course, we want to know what impact this is having locally. And we want to thank Sean Murphy, General Manager at Letterkenny University Hospital, for joining us. Sean, what has had to been the response locally to this cyber attack?
Well, Greg, as you can imagine, it's been an extremely busy morning throughout the hospital. I don't know what you've covered in your show, but essentially across the HSE, it appears all national systems are impacted, and again, there's the possibility that can spread into local systems where they're connected to the national systems. So it's an extremely serious attack. The latest update I have is that it will be several hours before the full extent of the attack has been risk evaluated and a clear plan in place. So at this stage, we're still trying to ascertain the level of impact. But what it has meant is that all our main hospital systems, IT systems, are down. So our patient registration, our waiting list system, our systems for booking in patients, for ordering requests, our radiology system, our pathology system, again, are all unavailable at the moment, including even our email system.
So what impact does that have on the operation of the hospital?
So I suppose the positive story here is that we have a very clear contingency plan in the event of any system failure, whether it be for cyber attack or other reasons. And we've switched over this morning to that paper system. The downside, as you can imagine, is that the paper systems are slower, more they're manual and take longer. At this point in time, and as I do stress is at this point in time, our outpatient clinics are continuing this morning. We are reviewing whether or not we'll be able to continue to sustain that, and part of that will be as we see how quickly we can process patients using the manual system. Our day surgery services and our endoscopy services are proceeding. Again, we've evaluated that and confirmed that we have the capacity to proceed with those services. Complex planned or scheduled elective case surgery is being cancelled. So there are some patients who were actually in the hospital due to have surgery today. We've had to postpone that because there's diagnostic follow-up that they would require, which we will not have readily available. Again, we were contacting patients that haven't attended the hospital as yet if anything is cancelled. But if you are planning to come, if you are scheduled to come in for surgery or for clinic this afternoon and you have not been contacted by the hospital, you go ahead and come in. However, if you're coming in for investigation, so X-ray, if you're coming in as an outpatient for X-ray, ultrasound scan, CT scan, or MRI scan, so scans or X-rays, do not attend the hospital this afternoon. We will not be doing outpatient.
What about blood tests?
Radiology. Again, well, we don't have patients come in for routine blood tests. The blood tests will be either scheduled as part of our pre-admission clinics, or they are at this point going ahead. And again, I stress at this point, they would be scheduled. They would be for inpatients. I think that covers it.
Okay, and will this have an impact, do you think, on pressures on the ED in terms of?
It will. So our main focus here is again supporting and protecting the emergency department. Obviously, people will see longer waits because, as I say, a manual system, even getting results manually to the lab and waiting for pieces of paper to come back will take much longer. So again, we would ask patients to only present to the emergency department if they have a true emergency situation, and if appropriate, to contact their GP or the out-of-hours GP service.
Now, presumably this